What is up, Locker Heads? It's me, Corey. Me and Alyssa were talking about doing something new in the channel because sometimes we get asked, like, do we shoot all the videos? Like, do we shoot every locker we get? The answer is no. And we do have some other stories. Like, people ask us, like, what's the weirdest thing you found? What's the craziest thing you found? Blah, blah, blah. All different stuff like that. So, what we're going to do is we're going to try and go through just some stories we have from all the lockers we bought. Because we've been doing this for going on 3.5 years ish. Three and a half years, somewhere in there. Don't remember exactly, but we've been doing it for a long time. And we only started filming about 8 months ago. And the reason we started filming, believe it or not, was we used to get questions from our family all the time and friends, like, what do you exactly do you do? What's it like when you buy a locker? So we decided one day, let's show them. Because we tell them the stories, and sometimes they're like, oh, well, that sounds cool, but whatever. Or so we were like, you know what, let's show them. So we did this, not expecting to get any views, to be honest with you. Because, the show was on TV and whatever. And we just wanted to show them that it's not always like the show. It's not always going to be, oh, I found this piece from the 1700s, or oh, I found this expensive thing. It's a labor of love in a way. Like, there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of, there's like a lot of average lockers that just pay the bills. And you do get those big hits sometimes. You do get those crazy things you find. And sometimes they turn out to be fake. Like, we found a Rolex that could have been worth like $8,000. Everything was legit on it, like, seemed legit on it and everything. And we bring it to the jeweler, and he's like, yeah, it's a good fake, but it's a fake. He's like, there's somebody probably paid a few $100 for this fake. And I'm not the type of person, I'm not going to sell a fake thing. That's just who I am. I would wear it, but I'm not going to sell it. I think that's dishonest. And, like, you can't sell it on eBay, obviously, but I'm not going to try and bring it to the flea market and sell it somewhere. One thing about me is I'm very transparent. I like to let everyone know. That's why when we started doing this, we got a lot more views. I wanted to show people it's not like the show. As much as I respect the show, I love the show. Um, it was a big influence on me doing this. Like, I knew about storage lockers and stuff before the show, but it was a big influence on me actually doing this. I'm not even gonna lie about that. Like, it was the biggest influence on me taking this step. But I did know beforehand about locker auctions. One of my old bosses used to go to them, and because he ran a antique company. Hold on, I have to blow my nose. And for all of our fans out there, I have a constantly runny nose. I have allergies and everything. I know sometimes the breathing and everything because I have to breathe through my mouth. So it's hard. Trust me, it's not something I enjoy. But what do you call it? So yeah. So let me just go into how we started. Well, how I learned about it is my old boss was an antique dealer, and he, like, if it was a slow month or a slow thing, he would go to the auction, he'd buy the stuff, or he would he would know some of the people that bought the stuff, and if they had anything, they would sell it to him. So we would go and we clean out the room for him or whatever, and that's how I learned about, like, that it even happened. And then what do you call it? And then through there I learned that, like, that it exists, because I didn't know it existed before that. I was like 18 or 19 at the time, and when I found out, I was like, that's cool. I'm like, but I didn't know how to do, like, I didn't know how to do it. Then I was 18 or 19, and I didn't even use eBay yet at the time. I just wasn't, like, into that kind of stuff. I was more just playing video games and working. I was 18. And then throughout the years, because I worked there for a long time, on and off, and I picked up a lot of the stuff I learned there, because I didn't go to college. I didn't really have any dreams or aspirations when I was younger, because I was young and stupid. I liked to party, I liked to drink, And so from there, we picked up. I mean, I picked up a lot of the knowledge because we worked at with an auction house named Phil Weiss's Auctions. Check them out if you're into antiques and stuff like that. They always have antique sports memorabilia, artwork, all different types of collectible stuff, Star Wars toys, comic books, all that type of stuff. Great place. I worked there with them. I worked part time a few times, but I worked with them a lot through my boss, putting stuff in the auctions or whatever. And I learned a lot of stuff, just like reading through the catalogs and this and that. I learned a lot of stuff, and I really found it interesting. And then at one point, I was thinking about going to school for art history or something like that. But school just isn't for me. A lot of people I think should go to school. Um, I think school's a very good thing, but for me, it's just not who I am. It's not what I'm good at. I'm good at just learning on the fly, and so I bounced around from a few jobs here and there after I stopped working at there because stopped working at the antique place. I got a job in a psychiatric hospital, um, in the middle of Brownsville, Brooklyn, which is a pretty rough neighborhood, and it was an experience. I got fired from there. Um, what next? I worked for my friend's father for a little while, and I was working at Ashley Furniture, and I was working in customer service, answering phones, listening to people bitch, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I was like, this is not for me. It's not my job. This is not my life. This is not where I want to go. And I had like no money saved when I quit, but I was at the point I just didn't want to be there. So I quit. I called my dad, my friend's dad. I'm like, hey, you need some money? He's like, yeah, but only once in a while. So I was working with him, and I started garbage picking. And, well, actually, wait, let me. Ooh, my bad. I skipped a step. Along the way, while I was working with my old boss, we would do cleanouts. And in those cleanouts is how I learned how to use eBay. Because he used to say, oh, take everything. He would take all the good stuff and be like, throw everything out. So anything that was going in the garbage, if I could take it and I could make a few bucks on it, I would. I wasn't taking anything worth $1 million. It was literally $8, $10 items, and I was taking a bunch of them and making a few extra bucks on the side. And through that, I learned how to use eBay through trial and error, because there was a lot of errors when I was first learning how to use eBay. Let me tell you that. So I learned how to use eBay, and I learned, like I said, I learned like some of the valuable stuff in this and that along the way. Um. Okay, so rewind. I fast forward to I was sick and tired of my job at Ashley Furniture. I'm not a customer service guy. I don't like dealing with people like that are yelling at me. I'm not good with it. Like, if somebody's yelling at me, my first response is usually just to yell back. It's not to be understanding. So it's just not a job that I'm equipped for. It's not who I am. I'm more of. I was good at the psychiatric hospital. I was late a lot. I wasn't on time. So, whatever. But, yeah, so I can't deal with, like, the yelling and, like, oh, well, the salesperson told me this, so I quit. I had no money saved, really. I had $100, $200, so I started working with my friend's dad part-time, like, twice a week, maybe, making $80 a day, just sitting on a truck doing deliveries with some tips. And then I started garbage picking in rich neighborhoods at night. I live 5 minutes away from a really, a rich neighborhood with its mansions and stuff. I just happened to live right by it. And we found this one house that was actually, the buyer was selling, and he was just throwing out all his stuff from his basement, like all years of whatever. And there was nothing more than $20 in there, but we ended up taking like 50 boxes from there, me and Alyssa, and selling it, and eventually found that there was an auction, storage auction, and we saved up money. I think we saved up $500. We spent some of the money we made, obviously, because we needed to live, and I wasn't working full time, so I needed to spend some of the money we made. But we ended up taking a shot, going to the auction. What was it? July. I don't remember. Sometime in July. What year is it? Okay, so it was July 2013, I believe. Or 2014. 2013. It was July 2013, I think. Yeah, it was July 2013. And we go, and there was only 3 people there. And being in my first real auction, because I went to an auction with my stepmother a few years before just to see. Yeah, because it was actually when Storage Wars came out. And we went, and there were so many people there. And every locker went for such a crazy amount. But this was a few years after the show had aired. So, like, kind of like the crazy factor, I guess, it was gone. But there's something I found out later why there was only 3 people, which I'll explain in a minute. But so there was only 3 people. Well, actually 4 people. It was me, this guy David. I think the other guy's name is Jose. Something like that. Jose or Juan. Can't remember. Jose or Juan. There's a lot of Jose's and Juans at the auctions. And some guy who was only there just because he saw the show, and he happened to be putting stuff in his storage locker. But 3 people was enough to do the auction. And there was only 5 lockers, which isn't a lot, because I've gone up when there's like 30 lockers, and it's insane. But there's only 5 lockers and 3 people. So right there, we were like, whoa, we have a really good chance of at least getting one small one. And we only had, I think we had like $500, $550, somewhere in that range. I can't remember exactly. But we didn't know that there was a deposit. There was a $200 at this facility per, not per room, but $200 total deposit. So we go. The first room comes up, and it's a good room that I probably would have tried to get like later on. But at the time, I was starting out with an antique company. I worked at an antique place, so I was looking for antiques. And like when I watch the show, you see old stuff. So for me, I was like, yeah, there's a big screen TV and a nice couch and this and that. I'm like, but that's not really what I was looking for. I did bid though, because it started at 100 and I bid 200, and then the guy bid like 250, and I was like, no. And then he called me a rookie. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, I am a rookie, but I kind of took offense, but whatever. So then, the next locker comes up, and all you could see was boxes, but they looked like there was like toys and stuffed animals in them. But I'm tall, I'm 6'3", and the other guy at the auction was like maybe 5'10", so I had some inches on him, and I was able to stand on my tippy toes and see over. And when I looked, you could see it's called a chess table. It's like there's the chessboard, like say when it's flat like this, there's a chessboard, and then there's like sides where the pieces go, and it was made of really nice wood. You could see whatever. So, but when you see the boxes, all you saw was like kids' toys. So the auctioneer goes 150, anything. I'm like, I'll give you $25 for it. And bam, that was the first auction I ever won. I was so excited. Me and Alyssa were like high five. Like, yeah, we got a unit. Yeah. And we don't. It's not like the TV show where you get to look through it and then it's an auction. You got to keep it going. So we put our lock on. Actually, no. At this place, the facility puts their lock back on until you pay. So we went to the next room, which was about 5 feet away. They opened the door, and this was like a room I was really looking for. This was like what I thought we were gonna find. There was a brass flower pot thing, some glass lampshades, but there was like a lot of big boxes and big stuff. And the other guy didn't really seem interested, so I was kind of like confused because I'm like, but I kind of heard them over like talking, and they didn't really have room for it. I didn't even have room for it because I had no idea where I was gonna put this stuff. To be honest with you, the other room was pretty small. It was like a 5x5, but this room was like a 5x8. But it was like a long 5x8. It was big. It was, I don't know. It was bigger than it was. It was like a bigger one than you would see in our videos because now we buy different lockers. But so we go. The auctioneer goes 500, 400, 300. And it gets to 200, and I go, yeah. And then the other guy doesn't bid, and he calls me a rookie again for wanting that room, or I guess for maybe paying too much for the room. And I was just like, okay. And then we go to the next two room. Next, what is it? One, two, three. So there's two more rooms after that. We ended up not bidding on any of the other rooms. It was just not stuff we wanted. The guy David ended up buying them. They were smaller rooms. There was like kids' bicycles in one of them, and I don't remember the last one. This was so long ago, so many lockers ago. But oh, so we ended up winning, and me and Alyssa were so excited. First thing I did, Dad, we won a locker. He's like, yeah. I'm like, actually, we won too. He's like, I don't think it's gonna fit in my garage, and we ended up renting a unit in the facility because we didn't have anywhere to put anything because we only had hold on. Good? Am I good? Looks good. So, we. What do you call it? So yeah, we have no room. Like, we had no room whatsoever for any of the stuff. We had like a small little space in my dad's garage that the little locker would have fit in. And so the first thing my dad says is, get a storage locker there, because if you're gonna be trying to sell this stuff, you're gonna need somewhere to sell it from, and you can't be driving. Because my dad lives a little whiles away, so he's like, you can't be driving to my house every day. He's like, you can if you want, but it's gonna kill your gas and your profits. So we decided, and we picked up a room for it was like $150 a month, which wasn't bad. So then the first thing we do is we go back to the rooms, the first room, um, take down the boxes with the stuffed animals. There's only 2 or 3 boxes with stuffed animals, and then the rest of the first box we opened had all like scuba wetsuits. Not any scuba gear or anything, just the wetsuits and like the fins. We ended up selling a few of those sets for 40, $50 a piece. They were really nice, like brands or whatever. I don't remember exactly what brands, but there was a bunch of them. We sold them for like 40, $50 a piece. We made a few $100 off of that. Then we got to the wood table, and the wood table was actually, like I said, a chess table, and it was really nice reproduction, but it was an older reproduction from around the 50s, the 40s, in that area. So it was a good one, and it was in beautiful condition, looked beautiful. And then what went with it was there was 2 throne chairs that would go on either side of them, and they were beautiful with like lion heads, claws on the feet, really beautiful, black leather. Um, and we ended up selling those for $500 each one, like about I think anywhere from 450 to 500 for all 3, so 1500. And then there was like some gold too, like in the jewelry box, and then there was a bunch of clothes for like little kids and stuff, like babies, little kids that we ended up donating to. I don't remember, Salvation Army or something like that. I don't remember, but it was because we probably would have tried to sell it at some point, but we decided, we already made money on it, and let's give some of it back if we can. So we ended up or we even might have put it in one of those donation boxes outside. I don't remember exactly where we donated it, but we donated the clothes somewhere. And there was a few other like knickknacks in there that we sold. Oh, there was what was that shit called? The Unesco. It was an Unesco Ferris wheel that did not work. It was broken. A bunch of pieces were missing, and we sold it for like 150, $200. And we found out later on, because we just put it up since it was broken, and we couldn't find the exact model, but we saw similar ones selling for a lot. So we just started the bidding at like 20, $30. I ended up going to like $150, and we were like, what? But yeah, it was like an Unesco Ferris wheel though, with like little rats, but it didn't work at all. And there was a few other things I can't remember exactly, but I remember there was gold. There was like some necklaces and stuff. It was nice. There was a bunch of personal stuff in there too. We tried. Well, we actually did give it back to the facility, but they said that they tried to call the guy, and when they called him, he said he didn't want any of this stuff. I don't know. We tried. We had one of the girls' names, and we looked her up, and we sent her emails and stuff. We never got a response. But and then okay, so then that was that. That was a good room. Made a lot of money on it. My first room, and then we went to the next room, and we're like, we can't do this well twice in our first two rooms, can we? And lucky enough, the first thing we opened was um a suitcase, like an old red hard suitcase. I like if you look at the old Samsonite suitcases, like with the hard shell, it was kind of like that, but it wasn't a Samsonite and it was red. And we opened it, and like all this sterling silver jewelry fell like everywhere. It was just like brooches, pins, necklace, charms, bunch of necklaces, bunch of bracelets, all sterling silver, and like 5 or 6 pieces of gold that were pretty heavy. And I was just like in shock. I was like, no way. I used the expletive. And what do you call it? So right there we ended up just going home. Went home, weighed everything, listed it, put it on eBay, put it on yeah, just eBay. We weren't using the other thing at the time. I can't remember what the other thing was called. We stopped using that one after an incident. I can't remember exactly what it was called. But we went home, got excited, did everything. Then we went back when my dad came back the next day. He came to meet us to help us because it was a lot of stuff in this one, and we ended up going through the stuff and finding out the guy was a Freemason who moved out of state and just left his stuff behind because he didn't want it, and all he wanted was the personal stuff that they were gonna mail to him or something. There was like paperwork and pictures or whatever, and what do you call it? There was all Freemason stuff, and I had fun. I'm not a Freemason. I know one or two Freemasons, but I was cool wearing some of the stuff, but I ended up selling all of it at the flea market and some of it on eBay actually. And there was also just like what else were there? Oh, there was like the Freemason books. There were some nice pieces of just like household stuff that like the brass thing. Oh, the lamps. I sold them to my grandma actually for a good price. Um, because they were beautiful glass lamps. They were gorgeous. They were converted from gas to electric, but they had these beautiful like hurricane lamps. Oh, they were gorgeous. One of her cats broke one of the shades, which is sad because it was glass shades. But yeah, we ended up in total. There was other stuff, like I said, other stuff, but it was a lot of Freemason stuff, which is really cool. There's actually a picture of me on Twitter, um, with no shirt on, with one of the guy's hats, and then the Freemason stuff. It's a pretty funny picture. But that's how we ended up getting hooked in, because, like I said, wasn't working. I was working part time, and I was garbage picking, and it took me a long time to make $500 garbage picking and working part time. And then in the first day, we made 500, and in the first month, we made close to $4,000, and I was hooked. I straight up was hooked. I mean, like you're gonna hear in the stories, not everything's like that, but for the first two rooms I ever bought, I was hooked, hooked. And the reason there was only 3 people there and we got these rooms so cheap, because these rooms never would have went that cheap. I've bought hundreds of rooms since then, and none of them go that cheap. That would look like that. But the reason there was is because they were shooting Storage Wars New York in where was it? I think it was in Long Island City or Brooklyn, and everybody wanted to be on the show. Like even in the background, so everyone went there except for the one guy, David, and his friend Jose or Juan, and then the other guy was just happened to be there, and then me and Alyssa, because we didn't know. So I don't want to say lucky, but we were fortunate that was happening, because normally we probably wouldn't have been able to get a room, and we probably never would have went back. But I guess everything in the universe aligned that day for us, and we were able to get those rooms for $225 plus tax, and then the deposit. But we get the deposit back. But it was just like, it was like, hey, maybe you guys are meant to do this. We started and we haven't stopped, and this is just the first story. So come back for more.